The lion's roar shook the ground beneath my feet. I'm not talking about a distant sound like something you'd hear at a zoo through concrete walls and safety glass. I'm talking about a roar so deep, so primal, so powerful that it vibrated through my chest cavity and rattled my teeth. The kind of sound that makes every muscle in your body scream run, except I couldn't run. I was frozen. Paralyzed between the massive lion in front of me and the 12 Janjaweed militia fighters behind me. The lion stood 10 feet away. Maybe less. Its mane was thick and wild, the color of desert sand mixed with blood. Its eyes golden, ancient, alive, locked onto mine. I could see every detail, the scars across its face, the dried blood on its jaw from a recent kill, the way its muscles rippled under its skin like coiled rope ready to snap. I was dead. I knew I was dead. Wild lions don't spare humans. They hunt. They kill. They eat. That's what they do. That's what this lion should have done. But this lion didn't. It turned its massive head away from me slowly, deliberately, and faced the militia. And then it took 3 steps forward. 3 steps that positioned its body directly between me and the armed men who'd been hunting me for 6 days across the Sudanese desert. The lion planted its paws in the sand, lowered its head, and roared again. This time, I watched what that sound did to hardened killers. Men who'd slaughtered entire villages without flinching. Men who wore necklaces made of human teeth. These men, with AK-47s, machetes, and years of bloodshed behind them, stumbled backward. One dropped his weapon. Another fell to his knees. The militia commander, a man named Bashir who'd burned my village 3 weeks earlier, raised his rifle toward the lion. His hands shook. I'd never seen his hands shake before. I'd watched those same steady hands slit my neighbor's throat while his children screamed. "Shoot it!" Bashir yelled at his men. Nobody moved. The lion took another step toward them. Just one. And 12 grown men, terrorists, murderers, monsters, ran. They scattered like insects, stumbling over rocks and each other, leaving trails of dust and the metallic smell of fierce sweat in the desert air. And I stood there. Alive. Protected by a wild animal that had no reason to save me. But here's the impossible part, the part that still makes my hands shake when I tell this story. That lion stayed with me. For 3 days. It didn't leave. It didn't hunt me. It guarded me. Like a soldier assigned to protection duty. While I walked 70 kilometers through the desert toward the Eritrean border, that lion walked beside me. At night, it circled my sleeping body. When other animals approached, hyenas, jackals, even other lions, my lion roared them away. On the 3rd morning, I reached a UN refugee checkpoint. I turned to look at the lion one last time. It was sitting on a ridge about 50 meters back, watching me. Our eyes met. I whispered, "Thank you, Jesus." And the lion, I'm telling you the truth, bowed its head. Just once. Then turned and walked back into the wilderness. The UN workers saw it too. All 6 of them. They stood frozen at the checkpoint gate, staring. A Kenyan doctor named Dr. Kamau was the first to speak. "Did that lion just escort you here?" "Yes," I said. My voice was cracked from dehydration, but firm. "God sent it." Dr. Kamau shook his head slowly. "I've worked in East Africa for 15 years. I've seen lions attack humans. I've treated the survivors, the lucky ones who lived. But I've never seen a lion protect someone. Never. That's not how they behave. That's not possible." "I know," I said. "But I'm standing here." "And you saw what you saw." He had no answer for that. Because there is no natural answer. No scientific explanation. No coincidence big enough to explain what happened to me in the desert between Darfur and the Eritrean border in August of 2023. God sent a lion to save my life. And if you think I'm exaggerating, if you think this is one of those testimony stories that gets bigger every time someone tells it, let me be very clear, I am giving you the raw, unfiltered, witnessed by others truth. This happened. I lived it. My body still carries the scars from the militia's machete attacks. My feet still have burn marks from walking on sand so hot it melted the rubber soles of my shoes. And somewhere in the Sudanese desert, there's a lion that obeyed the voice of God. My name is Amira. I'm 32 years old. I'm a refugee. I'm a survivor. And I'm a walking, breathing, impossible miracle. But let me take you back to where this story really begins, back to the war zone where I learned that prayer isn't just words you recite 5 times a day facing Mecca. Prayer is the desperate cry you scream when death is 90 seconds away and there's nobody left to save you except a God you're not even sure is listening. Let me take you back to Darfur. Back to the day my village burned. Back to the moment I realized that everything I thought I knew about God, faith, and survival was about to be shattered and rebuilt from ash. I didn't know it yet, standing in the smoke and screams of that burning village, but I was about to witness a biblical miracle in 2023. In Sudan. In a war zone where miracles were supposed to be dead. But Jesus doesn't check the calendar or the coordinates before he moves. He just moves. And when he does, everything changes. Commander Bashir didn't look like a monster. That's the thing that haunted me most. He looked normal. Almost kind, if you didn't know better. He had warm brown eyes, a neat beard, and this calm way of speaking that made you want to trust him. He smiled at children. He quoted the Quran beautifully. And he killed without hesitation. I first saw him 3 months before my village burned. He came through our area in a convoy of white Toyota trucks, the kind every militia in Sudan drives. They stopped in the village center, and Bashir stepped out wearing a clean thobe and a tactical vest. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He just talked. Brothers and sisters, he said, his voice carrying across the crowd that had gathered. We are here to protect you. To bring order to this region. But order requires cooperation. We need food, water, information. And we need to know, he paused, his eyes scanning the crowd, who among you are believers, and who are traitors to the faith. My stomach dropped. I knew what that meant. In Darfur, traitor to the faith was code for Christian. Or anyone who helped Christians. Or anyone who refused to join the jihad. Or anyone Bashir decided was a traitor. An old man named Yusuf spoke up. Commander, we are simple farmers. We have no traitors here. We are all Muslims. We pray, we fast, we. Do you? Bashir interrupted, still smiling. Because I've heard rumors. Rumors of Christian missionaries in this area. Rumors of converts. Secret believers. He walked toward Yusuf slowly, hands clasped behind his back like a teacher approaching a student. Rumors of Bibles hidden in homes. The silence was suffocating. Bashir stopped in front of Yusuf. Placed a hand on the old man's shoulder. I don't like rumors, uncle. I prefer facts. So let me ask you clearly, are there Christians in this village? Yusuf's eyes darted sideways, just for a second, toward the home of Maryam, a widow who'd converted 2 years earlier. It was barely a glance. Less than a second. But Bashir saw it. Ah, Bashir said softly. Thank you, uncle. You've been very helpful. He gestured to 2 of his fighters. They walked straight to Maryam's home and dragged her out into the street. She was screaming, pleading, praying in Arabic first, then in broken English, Jesus, help me. Jesus. Bashir shook his head sadly, like a disappointed father. You see? The disease has already spread here. He pulled out a pistol, casual, like he was pulling out a phone, and shot Maryam in the head. Right there. In front of everyone. Her body crumpled into the dust. Blood pooled around her hijab. Her 2 children, maybe 6 and 8 years old, screamed and ran toward their mother's body. Bashir's men held them back. Let this be a lesson, Bashir announced to the crowd. This is what happens to apostates. To those who abandon the true faith for the lies of the cross. He turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and Uncle Yusuf? Thank you for your cooperation. He shot Yusuf too. Through the chest. The old man fell beside Miriam's body. Traitors and informants both die, Bashir said calmly. Remember that. Then he got back in his truck and left. Like nothing had happened. Like he just stopped for tea. That was 3 months before he came back. 3 months before he returned with a mission that would destroy everything I knew. I wasn't a Christian then. I want you to understand that. I was a devout Muslim. I prayed 5 times a day. I wore hijab. I fasted during Ramadan even when I was sick with malaria and probably should have taken the exemption. I truly believed, that Islam was the only path to God. But Miriam's death shook me. Not because she was Christian, but because of what she said as they dragged her out of her home. She didn't scream curses at Bashir. She didn't beg for her life. She prayed. Out loud. With this strange peace in her voice, Jesus, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Those words. I couldn't get them out of my head. She forgave the men about to kill her? How? Why? I started asking questions. Quietly. Carefully. I spoke to a woman named Ruth who lived 2 villages over. She was a secret believer, part of an underground church. She gave me a Bible. A small one, hidden inside a Quran cover so I could read it without being caught. And I read. Late at night, by candlelight, while my husband slept. I read about Jesus healing the sick. Raising the dead. Forgiving his executioners. I read about love that didn't make sense. Grace that wasn't earned. A God who called himself Father. It was beautiful. And terrifying. Because if any of this was true, if Jesus really was who he claimed to be, then everything I'd built my life on was wrong. I wasn't ready to convert. Not yet. But I was curious. Hungry. I kept reading. Kept questioning. And I prayed to Allah, to Jesus, to whoever was listening, if you're real, show me the truth. Please. I need to know. I didn't know that prayer was about to be answered in the most violent way possible. Commander Bashir came back on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesday was market day, and the village was full, maybe 300 people. Farmers, traders, families. Children playing in the dirt streets. Women bargaining over vegetables. Normal. Safe. Until the trucks appeared. This time, there were 12 of them. Packed with fighters. Mounted guns on the truck beds. Bashir stepped out, but he wasn't smiling anymore. His face was stone. Cold. He carried a machete in his left hand and a radio in his right. He didn't give a speech this time. He just raised the radio to his mouth and said one word, purge. And hell erupted. Gunfire shattered the market. Screaming. Running. Bodies falling. I grabbed my daughter Salima, she was only 4, and ran. My husband Kareem was at the market stall. I looked back. Saw him running toward us. Saw the bullet hit him in the back. Saw him fall. Kareem! I screamed. Salima was crying, pulling at my hand. Mama, Baba fell down. Why did Baba fall down? I couldn't stop. If I stopped, we'd die too. So I ran. I ran while my husband bled out in the dirt behind me. I ran while the village I'd lived in my entire life burned. I ran while Bashir's men went house to house, shooting, hacking, dragging women away. I ran to the church. Yes. The church. The small, crumbling building on the edge of the village where Ruth and the other secret believers met. I don't know why I ran there. Instinct, maybe. Or something deeper, something I didn't understand yet. 15 of us made it inside. Mostly women and children. One old man. We barricaded the door with benches and prayed. Muslims and Christians together, crying out to whoever would listen. And then we heard Bashir's voice outside. "I know you're in there. Apostates. Cowards. Hiding in your false temple." He pounded on the door with something heavy, maybe the butt of his rifle. "You have two choices. Come out and convert back to the true faith, and I'll kill you quickly. Stay inside, and I'll burn this building to the ground with you in it." Ruth grabbed my hand. She was trembling. "Amira," she whispered. "Pray to Jesus. Please. He's the only one who can save us now." "I don't know how," I said. My voice cracked. "I don't know the words." "There are no special words," Ruth said. "Just ask him. He'll hear you." Outside, I heard the splash of gasoline being poured. I smelled it seeping under the door. Salima buried her face in my chest, sobbing. I closed my eyes. And I prayed the most desperate, clumsy prayer of my life: "Jesus, if you're real, if you care about me, we're about to burn. Save us. Please. I don't deserve it. But these children, they deserve to live. Save them. Save us. I'm begging you." Bashir lit the match. The church exploded into flames. The door. The walls. The roof. Everything burned except the center of the room where we huddled together. The fire surrounded us, roaring, consuming, but it didn't touch us. It was like an invisible wall stood between us and the flames. We stayed in that church for 4 hours while it burned. And when the fire finally died, we walked out. Alive. Clothes covered in soot but not burned. Lungs full of smoke but still breathing. The militia was gone. The village was ash. But we were alive. That's when I knew Jesus was real. And he just saved my life. But Bashir wasn't done with me. Not even close. Because 2 weeks later, he found out I survived. And he made me his personal mission. His obsession. He vowed in front of his fighters, in front of witnesses, that he would kill me himself. Slowly. Publicly. To prove that Jesus was weak and Allah was strong. And that's when the hunt began. For 6 weeks after the village burned, I lived like an animal. Not like a human refugee trying to survive, I mean literally like a hunted animal. Hiding in caves during the day. Moving only at night. Eating whatever I could find: roots, insects, dirty water from puddles that probably should have killed me from disease but somehow didn't. My daughter Salima clung to my back, her tiny arms wrapped around my neck, whimpering when she was too weak to cry anymore. We traveled with 8 other survivors from the church fire. Ruth was with us, and her teenage son David. 3 other women: Fatima, Zara, and Habiba, all Muslims who'd watched Jesus protect us in the flames and didn't know what to believe anymore. An elderly man named Ibrahim who'd lost his entire family. And 2 children, brothers, maybe 6 and 9 years old, whose parents were dead. We were the church fire survivors. That's what we became known as in the refugee networks that whispered information across the desert. And that made us famous in the worst possible way. Because Bashir told everyone, every militia, every village, every checkpoint, that we were witches. Sorcerers who'd used black magic to survive his fire. There was a bounty on our heads. 2,000 Sudanese pounds per person. Dead or alive, but preferably alive so Bashir could execute us himself. We walked toward the Eritrean border. It was 300 kilometers away. 300 kilometers through desert, through war zones, through territory controlled by 4 different militia groups. We had no vehicle. No weapons. No money. Just our feet and our desperate prayers. And I prayed. Oh, how I prayed. At first, I prayed to Allah the way I'd prayed my entire life. Ritualistic. Formal. The prayers I'd memorized as a child. Bismillah ir-Rahman ir-Rahim, but the words felt empty. Hollow. Like shouting into a void and hearing nothing echo back. I prayed far, the dawn prayer, kneeling in the sand while Salima shivered against me. I prayed Maghrib, the sunset prayer, while watching smoke rise from villages in the distance, knowing people were dying while I recited Arabic words I barely understood anymore. And Allah was silent. I'm not saying that to offend Muslims who might be watching this. I'm telling you my experience. My truth. For 31 years, I had prayed to Allah faithfully, and I had felt dutiful, obedient, but never heard, never loved, never pursued. But in those 6 weeks in the desert, when I cried out to Allah to save my daughter, to give us food, to hide us from the militia patrols, I heard nothing, felt nothing. Just the scorching sun, the endless sand, and the growing certainty that we were going to die out here. On the 3rd week, we lost Ibrahim. He simply couldn't walk anymore. His legs gave out. He waved us on, told us to leave him. I'm an old man, he said. I've lived my life. Save the children. Go. We left him sitting under an acacia tree, reciting Quran verses. 2 days later, we heard from other refugees that the militia found him. They beheaded him and left his body for the vultures as a warning. On the 4th week, we lost Habiba. She drank water from a contaminated source. We didn't know it was contaminated until it was too late. Cholera killed her in 3 days. We buried her in the sand with our bare hands, too weak to dig deep, too exhausted to cry properly. I remember Ruth praying over the grave, Lord Jesus, receive your daughter. She didn't know you in life, but we pray she met you in death. I wanted to believe that. I desperately wanted to believe that Habiba's suffering meant something, that she was somewhere safe now, held by a God who cared. But watching her die, watching her body convulse and empty itself until there was nothing left, it shattered something in me. Where was God in that moment? Where was Jesus? Where was Allah? Where was anyone? We kept walking. What else could we do? Die in place? At least walking gave us the illusion of hope. The illusion that maybe, we'd reach the border and find safety. Salima stopped talking in week 5. Just stopped. She'd whisper sometimes, Mama, thirsty, or Mama, hurt, but mostly she was silent. Her eyes were too big for her face. Her arms were thin as sticks. I was watching my daughter starve to death in slow motion, and I couldn't do anything about it. I prayed to Jesus. Clumsy, desperate prayers. Jesus, I don't know how to do this. I don't know the Christian prayers. I don't know if you even hear me because I'm new at this and I've sinned so much and I was Muslim and maybe you don't want me. But please. Please don't let my daughter die. Take me instead. I'm begging you. And still, silence. No burning bush. No angel appearance. No miraculous food falling from the sky. Just heat. Sand. Hunger. And the slow, crushing weight of despair. On the 37th day, we stumbled into a refugee camp near the South Sudan border. It wasn't an official UN camp, just a gathering of displaced people living in makeshift tents, surviving on almost nothing. Maybe 2,000 people crammed into a space meant for 200. We collapsed at the edge of the camp. I couldn't walk another step. Salima was unconscious in my arms, still breathing, but barely. Ruth fell to her knees beside me, her lips cracked and bleeding. We made it, she whispered. Amira, we made it. But we hadn't made it. Not really. We just traded one kind of death for another. The camp was hell. That's the only word for it. There was one water pump for 2,000 people. The lines started at 4 a.m. and lasted all day. Food distributions happened twice a week when they happened at all. The UN trucks would arrive with bags of grain, and people would fight for them. I saw a woman trampled to death in a food riot. I saw men steal from children. I saw things I can't even say out loud without wanting to vomit. And the smell. God, the smell. Human waste, rotting garbage, disease, death. The smell soaked into your skin, your clothes, your hair. You couldn't escape it. Even when you closed your eyes, you could smell it. We lived in a tent made of plastic sheets and sticks. 6 of us, me, Salima, Ruth, David, Fatima, and Zara. The 2 young brothers had disappeared somewhere in the camp. I hoped they'd found family. I feared they'd been taken by traffickers. In camps like this, children vanished all the time. Salima was sick. Really sick. She had a fever that wouldn't break, diarrhea that left her too weak to stand, and a cough that sounded like her lungs were tearing apart. I took her to the medical tent, a single tent with 2 overworked doctors and almost no supplies. The doctor, a tired Egyptian man named Dr. Hassan, examined her for maybe 3 minutes. She needs antibiotics, for fluids, and proper nutrition, he said flatly. I have none of those things. I'm sorry. What do I do? I begged. Please, there has to be something. Prayer, he said, not unkindly. That's all I can offer you. Prayer and hope she's strong enough to fight this on her own. He moved to the next patient, a child even sicker than Salima. I carried my daughter back to our tent and held her while she burned with fever. Ruth sat beside me, praying quietly in Arabic and English, switching between languages like she was trying to find the right frequency to reach God. Why isn't he answering? I whispered. My voice was raw. Broken. Ruth, I prayed to Jesus. I saw him save us from the fire. Why isn't he saving her now? Ruth's eyes were full of tears. I don't know, sister. I don't know. That night, I hit my lowest point. The place where hope dies and only rage remains. I laid Salima down on our thin mat, walked outside the tent, looked up at the stars, those beautiful, cold, distant stars, and I screamed at God. Where are you? You saved us from the fire, why? So we could die slowly out here instead? So I could watch my daughter suffer? I did what you wanted. I called on your name. I trusted you. And you've given me nothing. My husband is dead. My home is ash. My daughter is dying. And you're silent. I collapsed in the dirt, sobbing so hard I couldn't breathe. I have nothing left. Nothing. No home. No family. No food. No hope. Just nothing. And then, in that moment of absolute emptiness, I heard a voice. Not audible. Not with my ears. But clear. Unmistakable. Gentle but strong, like a whisper that filled my entire chest. You have me. I froze. Stopped crying. Looked around, nobody was there. Just the dark camp, the distant sounds of crying children and coughing adults. You have me, Amira. And I am enough. You're not enough. I whispered back, angry. I need food. I need medicine. I need my daughter to live. Do you trust me? I don't know. I was sobbing again. I want to. I'm trying to. But I don't understand what you're doing. I don't understand why you saved us just to let us suffer like this. Do you trust me? I sat there in the dirt for a long time. Maybe an hour. And slowly, painfully, I whispered, yes. I don't understand. But, yes. I trust you. Nothing dramatic happened. No angels appeared. The camp was still hell. Salima was still dying. But something in me shifted. Some small seed of faith, fragile, barely alive, took root. The next morning, Ruth shook me awake. Amira. Amira. You need to see this. I stumbled out of the tent, expecting more horror. More death. Instead, I saw a crowd gathered around the camp entrance. People shouting, crying, but not in despair. In shock. In joy. What's happening? I asked. Ruth grabbed my hand, pulling me forward. Just look. I pushed through the crowd and saw it, 3 massive UN trucks. Full of food. Medicine. Water. And a team of doctors and aid workers unloading supplies. A Kenyan woman with a clipboard was shouting in Arabic, we received an emergency allocation. Food, medical supplies, and clean water. Distributions start in 1 hour. Anyone with medical emergencies, bring them to the medical tent now. I ran back to our tent, scooped up Salima, and carried her to the medical tent. A young doctor, American, blonde, couldn't have been more than 25, examined her immediately. Bacterial infection, she said. But we can treat this. I have antibiotics. 4 fluids. She'll be okay. I started crying. Again. But this time, not from despair. The doctor smiled at me. You got here just in time. We almost didn't come, our funding was cut. But yesterday, a donor made an emergency contribution. Paid for this entire supply run. God's timing, huh? Yes, I whispered, holding Salima's tiny hand while the doctor inserted the 4. God's timing. And that's when I remembered what the voice said to me in the darkness, do you trust me? I didn't understand his timing. I didn't understand why he let us suffer for so long before sending help. But he did send help. Right when we needed it most. Right when I'd finally surrendered and said, yes. I trust you. Salima recovered over the next week. Slowly, but steadily. Color returned to her face. She started talking again. She even smiled. And I learned something in that suffering: God wasn't silent. I just wasn't listening in the right way. I was listening for immediate rescue, for instant miracles. But He was there in the survival. In the strength to take one more step. In the fact that we were still alive against impossible odds. But I also learned something else: I wasn't safe. Not yet. Because on the 45th day in that camp, a refugee arrived with news that made my blood run cold. Commander Bashir is coming, he said. He heard the church fire survivors are here. He's bringing 50 fighters. He'll be here in 3 days. Ruth looked at me. We have to run. Again. I nodded. Picked up Salima. And prepared to flee into the desert one more time. But this time, I wasn't running in despair. I was running in faith. Because I'd learned that God doesn't always remove the storm. Sometimes, He walks with you through it. I just didn't know yet that in 3 days, I'd be surrounded by Bashir's men with nowhere left to run. And that's when I'd remember what the Christian missionary said before Bashir killed her, words Ruth had told me on the 37th day in the desert: when you have nowhere else to turn, call on Jesus. He will answer. I was about to put those words to the ultimate test. We ran at midnight. Ruth, David, Fatima, Zara, Salima, and me. 6 people disappearing into the desert like ghosts. We left everything behind except one water container and the clothes on our backs. There was no time to pack. No time to plan. Just the urgent whisper. From camp to camp, Bashir is coming. If you're one of the church fire survivors, run. We headed northeast, away from the main roads, away from the villages, straight into the emptiest part of the Sahara we could find. Because empty meant no people. And no people meant no one to report our location to Bashir. The logic made sense for about 6 hours. Until we realized that empty also meant no water sources. No shelter. No food. And temperatures that reached 50 degrees Celsius during the day. We walked for 3 days. This time, we had no other refugees to join, no networks to rely on. Just us. And the vast, indifferent desert that swallowed our footprints as soon as we made them. On the second night, Fatima pulled me aside. We were resting under an outcropping of rocks, trying to escape the brutal sun that would return in a few hours. Salima was asleep on my lap. The others were collapsed in exhausted heaps. Amira, Fatima whispered. I need to tell you something. I looked at her. She was 23 years old. She'd been married for 6 months before the militia killed her husband. She still wore her wedding ring, a thin gold band that was probably worth enough to buy food for a week, but she refused to sell it. What is it? I asked. I've been thinking about Jesus. She said his name carefully, like she was testing the weight of it. About what happened in the church. The fire. I waited. In Muslim culture, especially in Sudan, talking about converting to Christianity was more than taboo. It was dangerous. Even out here, alone in the desert, the words felt heavy. I performed salah that night in the church, Fatima continued. Before Bashir came. I prayed to Allah to protect us. And then, the fire. And we should have died. The fire should have killed us. Her voice cracked. But you prayed to Jesus. Ruth prayed to Jesus. And the fire didn't touch us. I know, I said quietly. So I need to ask you, do you really believe that Jesus is God? That he's the one who saved us? I looked at my daughter sleeping on my lap. At the vast desert around us. At the impossible fact that we were still alive after everything we'd endured. Yes, I said. I believe. Fatima was quiet for a long moment. Then, teach me how to pray to him. How to follow him. My heart started pounding. Not from fear, from something else. Something like joy mixed with terror. Because I barely knew how to follow Jesus myself. I'd been a Christian for maybe 8 weeks. I'd never been to a church service. Never been baptized. Never read the entire Bible. I was the worst possible person to teach anyone about Jesus. Fatima, I don't know enough. You know more than me, she interrupted. And if we die out here tomorrow, and we might, I want to die knowing I prayed to the right God. To the God who actually hears. Who actually saves. Tears streamed down her face. I'm tired of praying to silence, Amira. I'm tired of feeling alone. I understood that feeling so deeply it hurt. Okay, I whispered. Okay. So there, in the middle of the Saharan desert at 2 a.m., I led Fatima in the only prayer I knew, the desperate, clumsy prayer I'd prayed in the burning church. Jesus, I don't know all the right words. I don't know all the theology. But I know you saved me. I know you're real. And I'm asking you, begging you, to save me. Come into my life. Forgive my sins. Make me yours. I trust you. Even when I don't understand. I trust you. Fatima repeated the words, her voice shaking. And when she finished, she looked at me with this expression, wonder mixed with fear mixed with relief, and whispered, I feel different. Is that normal? I don't know, I admitted. But I felt it too. When I first prayed. Like something heavy lifted off my chest. She nodded. Yes. Exactly that. We sat in silence for a while. And then Fatima said something that made my blood run cold. Amira, if Bashir catches us, and he finds out I converted, he'll make my death slow. Really slow. I know. Are you scared? I thought about that. Was I scared? Yes. Terrified. But also. I'm less scared than I was before, I said slowly. Because now I really know that death isn't the end. Jesus proved that. He died. And then he came back. And if he can do that, I trailed off. Fatima finished my thought, then maybe we can too. Maybe, I said. Or maybe we just go to be with him. Either way, we're not alone anymore. She smiled. A real smile. The first I'd seen from her since the village burned. Not alone anymore, she repeated. I like that. On the 4th day, we ran out of water. Completely. The container was empty. We'd rationed it as carefully as we could, but 6 people in the desert, 3 of them children, go through water fast. Especially when you're walking 10 hours a day under a sun that feels like it's actively trying to kill you. David tried digging in a dry riverbed, hoping to find groundwater. He dug for 2 hours, 3 feet down, and found nothing but more sand. Zara suggested we turn back, try to reach a village, any village, even if it meant risking Bashir's patrols. At least if the militia kills us, it'll be quick, she said. Dying of thirst it's torture. She wasn't wrong. Dehydration is one of the cruelest deaths. Your tongue swells. Your lips crack and bleed. Your brain starts to cook inside your skull. You hallucinate. You go mad before you die. We'd all seen it before, bodies in the desert, mouths open, hands clawed at the sand like they were trying to dig to an oasis that didn't exist. We can't go back, Ruth said firmly. Bashir has informants everywhere. The moment we show up in a village, someone will report us. And he'll be there within hours. So we die of thirst out here instead? Zara shot back. How is that better? Because out here, we die free, Ruth said. We die praying to Jesus instead of denying him to save our skins. Zara shook her head. I didn't sign up to be a martyr, Ruth. I just wanted to survive. You think any of us signed up for this? Ruth's voice rose. You think I wanted to watch my husband burned alive? You think Amira wanted to watch hers shot in the back? We didn't choose this. But we're here. And all we can do is decide how we face it, on our knees before Jesus, or on our knees before men who want us dead anyway. Zara looked away. I don't even know if I believe in Jesus. I just ran because you all ran. I'm not ready to die for someone I'm not sure is real. Ruth's expression softened. Then ask him to show you. That's all you have to do. Ask. And if he doesn't answer? Then we die, Ruth said simply. But at least we die having asked. That night, our fourth night without water, Salima became delirious. Her skin was hot and dry. Her eyes were glassy. She kept muttering about Baba, about wanting to go home, about being thirsty. I held her and felt utterly helpless. Useless. I'd failed her. Failed to keep her safe. Failed to get her to water. Failed as a mother in the most basic, primal way. David and Ruth were sleeping. Fatima was on watch, sitting on a rock scanning the horizon for any movement. Zara was curled up by herself, silent. I looked down at my dying daughter and felt something inside me break. Not despair this time, something deeper. Something that moved past fear and pain into a place of absolute surrender. I lifted my face to the stars, those same cold, beautiful stars I'd screamed at in the refugee camp, and I prayed. But not with words this time. Just raw emotion. Pure desperation poured out toward heaven like blood from a wound. Jesus. I can't do this anymore. I have nothing left. No strength. No hope. No water. No plan. Just you. If you're real, if you really care, then you have to do something. Because I'm done. I'm empty. I surrender. Completely. Take my life if you want it. Take me instead of her. But please, don't let my daughter die of thirst in the desert. Please. I'm begging you. Not because I deserve it. Not because I've been a good Christian, I've been a Christian for like 2 months. But because you said you love us. You said you came to save us. So save her. Please. Please. I don't know how long I prayed. Maybe an hour. Maybe more. But at some point, I felt that same presence I'd felt in the refugee camp. That gentle but strong whisper filling my chest. Do you trust me? Yes, I whispered out loud. I trust you. I don't understand you. But I trust you. Then sleep. Rest. I am already working. How? I asked. How are you working? There's no water for 100 kilometers. Do you trust me? I stopped arguing. Closed my eyes. And somehow, impossibly, I fell asleep holding my feverish daughter under the desert stars. I woke to Fatima shaking my shoulder. Amira. Amira! Wake up! I jolted awake, immediately checking Salima. She was still breathing. Still burning with fever. But alive. What? What is it? Is Bashir here? No. Fatima pointed east, toward the sunrise. Look. I looked. And my brain couldn't process what I was seeing. Birds. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. Circling in the sky about 2 kilometers away. Descending. Landing. The way birds do when they find water. That's not possible, I breathed. We're in the middle of the Sahara. There's no water here. It's been mapped. There's nothing. Then why are the birds there? Fatima asked. Ruth was awake now, staring at the birds. It's a mirage. Has to be. Dehydration hallucination. We're all seeing it, David said. Can we all hallucinate the same thing? I don't know, Ruth admitted. But we have nothing to lose. Let's go check. We gathered our few belongings and stumbled toward the birds. Every step was agony, our legs were cramped, our lips cracked, our throats raw. Salima was unconscious in my arms. It took us 40 minutes to cover 2 kilometers. We walked slowly, expecting the mirage to disappear any second, expecting to find nothing but more sand and dead birds. But we didn't. We found a spring. A spring. Clear water bubbling up from underground, forming a small pool maybe 10 feet across. The birds were drinking from it, bathing in it, completely unbothered by our approach. For a moment, we all just stood there, staring. Silent. Then Zara broke the silence. This isn't on any map. I've walked this route before 5 years ago with my family. There was no water here. Just sand. Miles and miles of sand. Ruth fell to her knees. Started laughing and crying at the same time. He did it. Jesus did it. He made water in the desert. Just like he did for Moses. Just like he did for Hagar. He did it. I didn't waste time marveling. I ran to the pool, fell to my knees, and splashed water on Salima's face. Wet her lips. Dripped it into her mouth. Come on, baby. Drink. Please drink. She coughed. Sputtered. And then her eyes fluttered open. Mama? I'm here, baby. I'm here. Drink. I helped her sip the water slowly. Not too much. I remembered that drinking too fast after severe dehydration could cause shock. We all drank. Slowly. Carefully. The water was cold. Clean. Impossible. David filled our container. Fatima washed her face. Zara just sat in the pool, fully clothed, crying. I asked, she said quietly. Last night. I asked Jesus to show me if he was real. And he made water appear. In the desert. For us. Ruth moved beside her in the water. So now you know. Now I know, Zara whispered. She looked at me. Amira, teach me that prayer. The one you taught Fatima. I want to pray it too. So I did. Right there, sitting in an impossible spring in the middle of the Sahara, I led Zara in the same clumsy, desperate prayer. And when she finished, she smiled this huge, radiant, impossible smile and said, I'm not afraid anymore. Not of Bashir. Not of death. Not of anything. Because if God can make water appear in a desert for us 6 nobodies running for our lives, then he can do anything. Yes, I said. He can. We stayed at the spring for 3 days. Resting. Drinking. Recovering. Letting Salima's fever break and her strength return. We ate what we could find. The birds had dropped seeds, and there were some desert plants nearby that were edible. And we prayed. All of us. Muslims and new Christians together, fumbling our way through conversations with a God who'd proven he was listening. On the morning of the third day, Ruth announced, "We need to keep moving. The birds will attract attention eventually. Someone will investigate. And if that someone is Bashir." We knew she was right. So we filled our water container, said a prayer of thanksgiving over the impossible spring, and started walking again. This time, we walked with hope. With faith. With the absolute certainty that God was with us. But we also walked with a target on our backs. Because while we were at the spring, Bashir had been hunting. Tracking. Closing in. And 6 days later, in a canyon 20 kilometers from the Eritrean border, he found us. And that's when I would need every ounce of the faith I'd just learned. Because I was about to face the most impossible situation of my life, surrounded by 12 armed men with nowhere to run, my daughter clutching my leg, and death 90 seconds away. That's when I would remember what Ruth told me. What the Christian missionary said before she died. When you have nowhere else to turn, call on Jesus. He will answer. I was about to find out if that promise was true. The canyon was supposed to be our shortcut to safety. A local nomad we'd encountered 2 days earlier, an old Bedouin man named Hassan who'd given us right dates and directions, told us about it. Follow the canyon north for 5 kilometers, he'd said, pointing with a gnarled finger. It leads to a valley. On the other side of that valley, Eritrea. Maybe 10 kilometers total. You can make it in 1 day if you start at dawn. We trusted him. We had no reason not to. He'd shared his food with us. Prayed with us. He was Muslim, but he said he respected all people who sought God sincerely. He'd even given Salima a small carved wooden camel as a gift, which she clutched like treasure. What we didn't know, couldn't have known, was that Hassan was a militia informant. Not by choice. Bashir's men had his grandson held hostage in a camp 50 kilometers south. Hassan gave Bashir information in exchange for keeping his grandson alive. I don't blame Hassan. I can't. When you're forced to choose between betraying strangers and saving family, most people choose family. I probably would have too. But his betrayal cost us everything. We entered the canyon at sunrise. It was beautiful in a harsh, ancient way, walls of striated red rock rising 100 feet on either side, worn smooth by millions of years of flash floods and wind. The floor was mostly sand with scattered boulders. A narrow strip of sky visible overhead, already turning from pink to brutal blue as the sun climbed. It was quiet. Too quiet. No birds. No insects. Just the sound of our footsteps crunching on sand and our labored breathing. David was in front, scouting. Ruth and I walked in the middle with Salima between us. Fatima and Zara brought up the rear. We were 3 kilometers into the canyon when David stopped. Raised his hand. Whispered urgently, "Get down. Now." We dropped. I pulled Salima against me, behind a boulder. My heart hammered so hard I could hear it in my ears. "What is it?" Ruth breathed. David pointed ahead. I peeked around the boulder and my stomach dropped into my feet. Blocking the canyon ahead, maybe 200 meters away, was a line of men. 12 of them. Armed with AK-47s, machetes, and RPGs. They stood shoulder to shoulder, completely blocking the narrow passage. They weren't moving. Just waiting. "Bashir," I whispered. Even from this distance, I recognized his silhouette. The tactical vest. The way he stood with absolute confidence, like a man who'd never lost. "How did he?" Fatima started. "Doesn't matter," Ruth cut her off. "We need to go back. Now." Quietly. We turned. Started creeping backward the way we'd come. And froze. Because behind us, blocking the southern exit of the canyon, was another line of men. 8 of them. Also armed. Also waiting. We were trapped. Perfectly, completely trapped in a canyon with 100-foot walls and no side exits. "No," Zara whimpered. "No, no, no." Quiet, David hissed. Maybe they haven't seen us yet. Maybe. Bashir's voice echoed through the canyon, amplified by a megaphone. Church fire survivors. I know you're in there. I've known for 3 days. I've been waiting for you. My blood turned to ice. Hassan told me you'd come through this canyon, Bashir continued, his voice calm. Almost pleasant. He's a good informant. Reliable. You really should be more careful who you trust. I felt sick. Hassan's kind eyes. His gentle smile. His gift to Salima. All an act. Or worse, genuine kindness forced to serve evil. You have 2 choices, Bashir said. Choice 1, walk toward me now. Kneel. Renounce your false god. Return to Islam. I'll kill you quickly. Bullet to the head. Painless. Almost merciful. He paused. Let that sink in. Choice 2, make me come get you. In which case, I'll take my time. I'll start with the children. Make you watch. Then the women. Then the men. You'll beg me to kill you by the end. I promise you that. Salima whimpered against my chest. I covered her mouth gently, trying to muffle the sound. You have 5 minutes to decide. Bashir shouted. After that, we come in. And trust me, you don't want that. The megaphone clicked off. Silence crashed down on the canyon like a physical weight. Ruth looked at me. Her face was pale but steady. Amira. We need to pray. Now. Pray? Zara's voice was shrill with panic. Pray? We're trapped. There's no way out. Prayer isn't going to. Prayer is all we have left. Ruth snapped. Unless you'd rather walk out there and let Bashir put a bullet in your head? Zara closed her mouth. Tears streamed down her face. David was frantically scanning the canyon walls, looking for any crack, any crevice, any possible escape route. There was nothing. The walls were smooth. Vertical. Impossible to climb. 4 minutes. Bashir's voice echoed. Fatima grabbed my hand. Her grip was crushing. Amira. The spring. Remember? Jesus made water appear. He can make a way appear. He can. We're not asking for water this time, I said quietly. My voice sounded strange. Distant. Like it was coming from someone else. We're asking for a miracle even bigger than that. Then ask. Fatima pleaded. You're the one he listens to. You're the one who. He doesn't just listen to me, I interrupted. He listens to all of us. We all pray. Together. Right now. Ruth nodded. She's right. Everyone, hands together. Now. We formed a circle in the shadow of the boulder. 6 people holding hands. 3 brand new Christians, 1 lifelong believer, 1 terrified Muslim who didn't know what she believed, and 1 4-year-old child who simply trusted that her mama would keep her safe. We knelt in the sands. 3 minutes. Bashir shouted. I could hear amusement in his voice now. He was enjoying this. The hunt. The trap. The inevitable slaughter. Jesus, Ruth began, her voice shaking but strong. We need you. Not in an hour. Not tomorrow. Right now. We need the same God who parted the Red Sea. Who brought down Jericho's walls. Who walked out of the tomb. We need that Jesus. The miracle-working, death-defying, impossible God. Because this situation is impossible. And you specialize in impossible. Please, Fatima added, crying openly. Please don't let them kill us. Don't let them kill Salima. She's just a baby. She deserves to live. To grow up. To know you. Please. Zara was trembling so hard her teeth chattered. But she whispered, Allah Jesus, whoever you are, if you're real, if you care, prove it. Now. Please. I'm begging you. David said nothing. Just gripped our hands tighter and breathed in ragged gasps, trying not to panic. 2 minutes. Bashir's voice was closer now. They were moving in. I could hear boots on sand. The metallic click of weapons being readied. It was my turn. They were all looking at me. Waiting. I closed my eyes. Pulled Salima close. And prayed the most desperate prayer of my life. Jesus. I don't understand your plan. I don't understand why you saved us from the fire, gave us water in the desert, brought us this far just to let us die in this canyon. It doesn't make sense. But Ruth told me, faith doesn't have to make sense. Faith just has to trust. So I'm trusting you. Even though I can hear death walking toward us. Even though every logical part of my brain is screaming that we're about to die. I'm choosing to trust that you are bigger than this canyon. Bigger than Bashir. Bigger than 12 guns and 20 armed men and death itself. You proved that when you walked out of your tomb. So I'm asking you, begging you, do it again. Show these men who you are. Show us who you are. Save us. Not because we deserve it. But because you are the God who saves. That's who you are. That's what you do. So do it. Please. We're yours. We're completely yours. Our lives. Our deaths. Whatever happens, we're yours. But if there's any way, if there's any chance. Save us. I opened my eyes. Looked at each person in our circle. Whatever happens in the next 60 seconds, we stay together. We don't run. We don't scatter. We face this together. Agreed? Everyone nodded. Even Zara. 1 minute. Bashir's voice was right there. Maybe 50 meters away. I could hear him laughing. I hope you said your goodbyes. I hope you prayed to your dead prophet. Because in 60 seconds, you join him in. He stopped mid-sentence. The sudden silence was deafening. I heard shouting. Confused. Panicked. In Arabic, what is that? Back up. Commander, look. I peeked around the boulder. And I saw it. Standing between us and Bashir's advancing line, maybe 30 meters from us, 20 meters from them, was a lion. A massive male lion. Mane like fire in the morning sun. Easily 500 pounds of pure muscle and predatory power. It stood perfectly still, facing Bashir's men, its tail flicking slowly back and forth. Where did it come from? One of the fighters screamed. Shoot it. Bashir ordered. Shoot it now. 3 men raised their rifles. Fired. The gunshots echoed through the canyon like thunder. We all watched as the bullets hit the lion. I saw them impact. Saw the puffs of dust from the lion's mane where the rounds struck. The lion didn't fall. Didn't flinch. Didn't even blink. It just stood there. Unmoved. Impossible. What is this? Bashir's voice had lost its calm. Now he sounded afraid. Actually afraid. The lion took 1 step forward. Toward Bashir's men. They stumbled backward. 2 of them tripped. 1 dropped his weapon. And then the lion roared. I told you before, I told you at the beginning of this story what that roar sounded like. But I need you to understand, I wasn't exaggerating. That sound didn't just fill the canyon. It shook it. I felt it in my bones. In my teeth. The rock walls seemed to vibrate. Sand fell from cracks in the stone above us. Salima buried her face in my chest. David covered his ears. Even Ruth, strong, faithful Ruth, shrank back against the boulder. But Bashir's men? They broke. Half of them turned and ran. Just flat out sprinted back toward the southern entrance of the canyon, screaming. The other half froze, weapons dangling uselessly in their hands, staring at the lion with expressions of pure terror. Bashir stood his ground. Barely. His megaphone hung limply at his side. "It's just an animal," he shouted at his fleeing men. "Come back. It's just a..." The lion took 3 more steps toward him. Slowly. Deliberately. Each paw landing with impossible weight, like the earth itself bent beneath its feet. Bashir raised his pistol. Fired 6 shots. Point-blank range. I saw the bullets hit the lion's shoulder, its chest, its face. Nothing. The lion kept coming. Bashir's pistol clicked empty. He stood there, handshaking, staring at the impossible creature walking toward him. And then the lion did something that made my heart stop. It turned its head. Looked directly at me. Our eyes met. Golden eyes. Ancient eyes. Eyes that somehow seemed aware. Intelligent. Not the mindless stare of an animal, but something else. Something that looked at me, not through me. And I knew. In that instant, I knew with absolute certainty, God sent this lion. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't luck. This was divine intervention. The lion held my gaze for 3 seconds. Then turned back to Bashir. And took another step. Bashir ran. Commander Bashir, the man who'd murdered hundreds, who'd burned villages, who'd hunted us for months without mercy, fled like a terrified child. He dropped his pistol. Dropped his megaphone. Turned and sprinted toward the northern exit of the canyon, screaming incoherently. His remaining men followed. All of them. Within 30 seconds, the canyon was empty except for us, the lion, and the echoing sound of boots on stone as 20 armed fighters fled from one unarmed animal. The lion stood perfectly still. Watching them go. Making sure they were gone. And then it turned to face us. For 10 seconds, maybe the longest 10 seconds of my entire life, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. We just stared at the lion, and the lion stared back at us. My mind was screaming contradictory things all at once. Run. Don't move. Protect Salima. It just saved us. It's still a predator. God sent it. It's going to eat us. The lion was massive. I don't think I fully described how massive. Standing there in the morning light, I could see every detail, the thick muscles bunching under its tawny coat, the scars crisscrossing its face and shoulders from old battles, the way its mane rippled in the slight breeze. Its paws were the size of dinner plates. Claws like curved daggers, partially extended, digging into the sand. Its tail swished slowly back and forth, the way cats do when they're deciding whether something is prey. And its eyes. Those golden, impossible eyes fixed on our little group huddled behind the boulder. "Nobody move," David whispered. His voice was barely audible, tight with terror. "If we run, it'll chase. Predator instinct. Just stay still." But Salima, my beautiful, innocent, 4-year-old daughter who didn't understand predators or danger or the fact that we were staring at an animal that could rip her apart in seconds, did the most insane thing possible. She let go of my hand. Salima, I reached for her, but she'd already stepped out from behind the boulder. My heart stopped. Everything in me screamed to grab her, pull her back, but I was frozen, paralyzed between the instinct to protect her and the terror that any sudden movement would trigger an attack. Salima took 3 small steps toward the lion. Her little wooden camel toy clutched in one hand. "Salima!" I hissed. "Get back here. Now!" She ignored me. Took 2 more steps. She was maybe 20 feet from the lion now. The lion's eyes shifted from me to her. Its head lowered slightly. Watching. Calculating. "Please," I breathed. I wasn't even sure who I was talking to anymore, Salima, the lion, or God. Please, please, please. Salima stopped about 10 feet from the lion. Tilted her head to one side, studying it with that fearless curiosity only children have. And then she smiled. Kitty, she said in Arabic. Big kitty. Oh God. Oh Jesus. My daughter thought this apex predator was a pet. Salima, that's not a kitty, I said, trying to keep my voice calm even though every cell in my body was screaming. That's a lion. A dangerous lion. You need to come back to Mama. Right now. Slowly. Please, baby. But Salima wasn't listening. She was holding up her wooden camel, showing it to the lion like she was introducing toys on a playdate. Look, she said. Hassan gave it to me. Do you like it? The lion stared at the toy. Then at Salima. Its tail stopped swishing. And then, I swear on everything holy, on my life, on the impossible miracle I'm about to describe, the lion bowed. Not a full bow. Just lowered its head. Bent its front legs slightly. Like a dog offering submission. Or like a soldier acknowledging a superior. Salima giggled. Mama. The kitty likes my toy. Amira, Ruth whispered beside me. Her voice was shaking. What is happening right now? I don't know, I breathed. I don't understand. The lion straightened. Took one slow step towards Salima. Every muscle in my body tensed. This was it. This was the moment it would strike. It had saved us from Bashir, but now it would revert to instinct. It would. The lion stopped beside Salima. Lowered its massive head until it was level with her tiny face. And it nuzzled her. Gently. The way a house cat rubs against its owner's leg. The lion's huge head pressed softly against Salima's shoulder, and she reached up without fear and touched its mane. Soft, she said, running her small fingers through the coarse hair. Mama, it's so soft. I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. Couldn't process what I was seeing. Fatima was crying. Zara had her hand over her mouth, eyes wide as saucers. David just stood there, shaking his head slowly like he was trying to wake up from a dream. Ruth was whispering in Arabic, Subhanallah. Subhanallah, glory to God. Glory to God. Salima patted the lion's head. Good kitty, she said. Thank you for making the bad men go away. The lion made a sound, not a roar, not a growl, but something deep and rumbling. Almost like a purr? Could lions purr? I didn't know. I didn't know anything anymore. And then the lion did something even more impossible. It turned its head toward me again. Those golden eyes locked onto mine. And it walked toward me. Slowly. Deliberately. Every step measured and purposeful. I couldn't move. Couldn't run. Couldn't even breathe. The lion was approaching, and Salima was following it, skipping along beside this 500-pound predator like they were best friends. Mama, don't be scared. Salima called. The kitty is nice. The lion stopped directly in front of me. Close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from its body. Close enough to smell it, a wild, musky scent like sun-baked earth and blood in something ancient. Close enough that if it wanted to kill me, I'd be dead before I could even scream. Its eyes bored into mine. Unblinking. Searching. And then, I don't know how else to describe this, I felt something. Not physically. But I and me. In my spirit, my soul, whatever you want to call the deepest part of a person. I felt. Seen. Known. Like this lion was looking past my body, past my fear, straight into the core of who I was. And what I saw reflected in those golden eyes wasn't hunger. Wasn't aggression. It was recognition. Like the lion knew me. Had been sent for me. My hand moved, I didn't consciously decide to move it, it just moved and reached out toward the lion's face. Amira, don't, Ruth started. My fingers touched the lion's mane. Coarse. Thick. Warm from the sun. Real. This was real. The lion closed its eyes. Leaned into my touch. That deep rumbling sound again, definitely a purr, impossible as that was. Tears poured down my face. You saved us, I whispered. God sent you. He sent you. The lion opened its eyes. Held my gaze for 3 more seconds. And then it turned and walked back toward the center of the canyon. It stopped about 30 feet away. Looked back at us one more time. And then it sat. Planted itself right there in the sand like a sentinel. Like a guard. What is it doing? David asked. I think Ruth's voice was filled with awe. I think it's protecting us. Still. Making sure Bashir doesn't come back. That's impossible, Zara said. But her voice held no conviction. We just watched impossible happen 6 different ways in the last 5 minutes. We should go, Fatima said. While we can. While Bashir is still running. The northern exit is clear now, we can make it to Eritrea by sunset if we move fast. She was right. This was our chance. Our escape window. We needed to move. But I couldn't. Not yet. Because something inside me, some deep, unshakable conviction, told me to wait. To watch. To see what God was doing, because he wasn't finished yet. Mama, the kitty is sitting, Salima said, still standing beside me. Is it waiting for something? I think so, baby, I said. I think so. We waited for 10 minutes. The lion didn't move. Just sat there, perfectly still, facing the northern exit where Bashir had fled. And then we heard it, voices. Shouting. Arguing. Getting closer. They're coming back, David hissed. We need to go. Wait, I said. Just, wait. The voices grew louder. I recognized Bashir's voice, angry and commanding. I don't care what you saw. It was an animal. We have guns. We outnumber it 20 to 1. We are not running from one stupid lion. We go back in there, we kill the lion, and then we kill those apostates. Do you understand me? Reluctant agreement from his men. The sound of boots on stone. They were coming back. Regrouping. Gathering courage to face the impossible lion again. The lion stood. Turned to face the northern entrance. And the look on its face, I know animals don't have expressions like humans, but I swear the look on that lion's face was something like grim determination. Bashir appeared first, rifle raised. Then his men, fanning out behind him. All 12 of them. Plus the 8 from the southern entrance who'd regrouped and come around. 20 men. 20 rifles. Facing one lion. There. Bashir pointed. You see? Just an animal. Now shoot it. The men hesitated. I said shoot it. Bashir screamed. 20 rifles opened fire. The canyon exploded with noise, deafening, echoing, overlapping cracks of gunfire that went on and on and on. I pulled Salima behind the boulder, covering her ears. The bullets were flying everywhere, ricocheting off the canyon walls, kicking up sand, creating a deadly storm of lead. The lion just stood there. In the center of that firestorm. Unmoving. The shooting lasted maybe 15 seconds. Felt like an hour. When it finally stopped, when the magazines clicked empty and the echoes faded, smoke hung in the air like fog. And the lion was still standing. Unblooded. Unwounded. Untouched. What is this thing? One of the fighters screamed. He threw down his rifle and ran. 4 others followed immediately. Bashir stood frozen, staring at the lion with an expression I'd never seen on his face before, pure, primal terror. It's Jinn, one of his men whispered. Evil spirits. Magic. We can't fight this. It's not magic. Bashir roared. But his voice cracked. It's. The lion took one step forward. The remaining fighters scattered like leaves in a windstorm. Running, stumbling, climbing over each other to escape. Within seconds, only Bashir remained. He and the lion faced each other. Man and beast. Evil and divine intervention. What are you? Bashir whispered. The lion answered with a roar that shook loose sand from the canyon walls. Birds I hadn't even known were there burst from cracks in the stone, fleeing the sound. Bashir's legs gave out. He fell to his knees. His rifle clattered to the ground beside him. And then he looked past the lion. Looked directly at me. You, he said. His voice was hollow. Broken. You did this. You're sorcery. It's not sorcery, I said. I stepped out from behind the boulder. I don't know where I found the courage. Maybe I didn't, maybe it was God's courage working through me. It's Jesus. The God you tried to kill. The God you said was weak. He just proved you wrong. Bashir shook his head. No. No, this is a miracle, Ruth said, stepping beside me. Then Fatima. Then Zara. Then David. All of us standing together, facing the man who'd hunted us for months. The lion remained between us. Protective. Immovable. Your bullets can't kill it, I continued. Your weapons can't touch it. Because it's not natural. God sent it. To protect us. To show everyone that he is real. That he is powerful. And that he protects his children. Bashir's face twisted. Rage and fear warring for dominance. I will kill you, he hissed. If not today, then tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then next week. I will hunt you until. The lion roared again. Closer. Louder. Right in Bashir's face. Bashir scrambled backward, crawling like an animal himself, and then he found his feet and ran. Fled north out of the canyon, leaving his rifle, his radio, his dignity scattered in the sand. And then finally the lion turned back to us. It walked slowly toward our group. Stopped in front of me. Sat down. And simply waited. What does it want? Fatima whispered. I don't know, I admitted. Salima had no such uncertainty. She walked right up to the lion and hugged its neck. Buried her face in its mane. Thank you, Kitty, she said. Thank you for saving Mama. The lion made that purring sound again. Bent its head to gently touch Salima's hair with its nose. And then, I will never forget this as long as I live, the lion looked at me one last time. And I felt that presence again. That knowing. That certainty that this wasn't just an animal. This was God's answer. God's protection. God's promise made flesh and fur and fawn. I am with you, the presence seemed to say. Always. Even in the valley of the shadow of death. I am with you. Thank you, I whispered. To God. To the lion. To whatever impossible intersection of divine and natural was standing in front of me. Thank you. The lion stood. Turned. And walked toward the northern exit of the canyon. Wait, David called. Where is it going? I think, Ruth said slowly. I think it's escorting us. Making sure we get out safely. She was right. The lion walked ahead of us, maybe 30 feet in front, moving at a pace we could match. When we walked, it walked. When we slowed, it stopped and waited. For 3 hours, through the rest of the canyon and into the valley beyond, that lion led us like a shepherd leading sheep. We didn't see Bashir or his men again. Every time we passed a place where they might have ambushed us, a narrow pass, a cluster of rocks, a blind curve, the lion would stop. Scan the area. Only move forward when it was certain the path was clear. At sunset, we reached the Eritrean border. A UN checkpoint. Fences. Guards. Safety. The lion stopped at the top of a ridge overlooking the checkpoint. About 50 meters back from the border. We stopped too. Knowing this was goodbye. I walked up to the lion one last time. Knelt beside it. Placed my hand on its massive shoulder. I don't know if you can understand me, I said quietly. I don't know if you're an angel in lion form, or if you're just a lion God commanded, or if you're something else entirely. But thank you. You saved our lives. You showed us that God is real and present and powerful. And I will tell this story until the day I die. I will tell everyone what you did. What he did. The lion turned its head. Looked at me with those golden, ancient eyes one last time. And it bowed its head. Just once. Deliberately. Like it was saying, mission complete. You're safe now. Then it stood, turned, and walked back into the wilderness. Within seconds, it disappeared into the gathering darkness. I stood there watching the empty horizon until Ruth touched my shoulder. Come on, sister. Let's go claim our miracle. We walked down to the checkpoint. The guards stared at us, 6 half-dead refugees appearing out of nowhere as the sun set. Where did you come from? A Kenyan soldier asked in English. Sudan, I said. Through Darfur. Through the desert. Through a canyon where 20 armed men tried to kill us. How did you survive? He asked, looking at our group, 3 women, 1 teenage boy, 1 small child. No weapons. No supplies. Nothing. I smiled. For the first time in months, I smiled with pure, unshakable joy. A lion, I said. God sent us a lion. The soldier stared at me like I was insane. But the doctor standing beside him, Dr. Kamau, the same Kenyan doctor I mentioned at the beginning of this story, looked at me differently. Intensely. You're serious, he said. Completely serious. He shook his head. That's not possible. Lions don't protect humans. They hunt humans. I know, I said. But this one did. For 3 days. From that canyon to here. It walked with us. Protected us. And then it left. Dr. Kamau studied my face for a long moment. Then he said quietly, I believe you. Why? He gestured toward me. Because you're standing here. Against impossible odds, with impossible testimony, you're standing here. That's miracle. He and the lion faced each other. Man and beast. Evil and divine intervention. What are you? Bashir whispered. The lion answered with a roar that shook loose sand from the canyon walls. Birds I hadn't even known were there burst from cracks in the stone, fleeing the sound. Bashir's legs gave out. He fell to his knees. His rifle clattered to the ground beside him. And then he looked past the lion. Looked directly at me. You, he said. His voice was hollow. Broken. You did this. You're sorcery. It's not sorcery, I said. I stepped out from behind the boulder. I don't know where I found the courage. Maybe I didn't, maybe it was God's courage working through me. It's Jesus. The God you tried to kill. The God you said was weak. He just proved you wrong. Bashir shook his head. No. No, this is a miracle, Ruth said, stepping beside me. Then Fatima. Then Zara. Then David. All of us standing together, facing the man who'd hunted us for months. The lion remained between us. Protective. Immovable. Your bullets can't kill it, I continued. Your weapons can't touch it. Because it's not natural. God sent it. To protect us. To show everyone that he is real. That he is powerful. And that he protects his children. Bashir's face twisted. Rage and fear warring for dominance. I will kill you, he hissed. If not today, then tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then next week. I will hunt you until. The lion roared again. Closer. Louder. Right in Bashir's face. Bashir scrambled backward, crawling like an animal himself, and then he found his feet and ran. Fled north out of the canyon, leaving his rifle, his radio, his dignity scattered in the sand. And then, finally, the lion turned back to us. It walked slowly toward our group. Stopped in front of me. Sat down. And simply waited. What does it want? Fatima whispered. I don't know, I admitted. Salima had no such uncertainty. She walked right up to the lion and hugged its neck. Buried her face in its mane. Thank you, Kitty, she said. Thank you for saving Mama. The lion made that purring sound again. Bent its head to gently touch Salima's hair with its nose. And then, I will never forget this as long as I live, the lion looked at me one last time. And I felt that presence again. That knowing. That certainty that this wasn't just an animal. This was God's answer. God's protection. God's promise made flesh and fur and fong. I am with you, the presence seemed to say. Always. Even in the valley of the shadow of death. I am with you. Thank you, I whispered. To God. To the lion. To whatever impossible intersection of divine and natural was standing in front of me. Thank you. The lion stood. Turned. And walked toward the northern exit of the canyon. Wait, David called. Where is it going? I think, Ruth said slowly. I think it's escorting us. Making sure we get out safely. She was right. The lion walked ahead of us, maybe 30 feet in front, moving at a pace we could match. When we walked, it walked. When we slowed, it stopped and waited. For 3 hours, through the rest of the canyon and into the valley beyond, that lion led us like a shepherd leading sheep. We didn't see Bashir or his men again. Every time we passed a place where they might have ambushed us, a narrow pass, a cluster of rocks, a blind curve, the lion would stop. Scan the area. Only move forward when it was certain the path was clear. At sunset, we reached the Eritrean border. A UN checkpoint. Fences. Guards. Safety. The lion stopped at the top of a ridge overlooking the checkpoint. About 50 meters back from the border. We stopped too. Knowing this was goodbye. I walked up to the lion one last time. Knelt beside it. Placed my hand on its massive shoulder. I don't know if you can understand me, I said quietly. I don't know if you're an angel in lion form, or if you're just a lion God commanded, or if you're something else entirely. But thank you. You saved our lives. You showed us that God is real and present and powerful. And I will tell this story until the day I die. I will tell everyone what you did. What he did. The lion turned its head. Looked at me with those golden, ancient eyes one last time. And it bowed its head. Just once. Deliberately. Like it was saying, mission complete. You're safe now. Then it stood, turned, and walked back into the wilderness. Within seconds, it disappeared into the gathering darkness. I stood there watching the empty horizon until Ruth touched my shoulder. Come on, sister. Let's go claim our miracle. We walked down to the checkpoint. The guards stared at us, 6 half-dead refugees appearing out of nowhere as the sun set. Where did you come from? A Kenyan soldier asked in English. Sudan, I said. Through Darfur. Through the desert. Through a canyon where 20 armed men tried to kill us. How did you survive? He asked, looking at our group, 3 women, 1 teenage boy, 1 small child. No weapons. No supplies. Nothing. I smiled. For the first time in months, I smiled with pure, unshakable joy. A lion, I said. God sent us a lion. The soldier stared at me like I was insane. But the doctor standing beside him, Dr. Kamau, the same Kenyan doctor I mentioned at the beginning of this story, looked at me differently. Intensely. "You're serious," he said. "Completely serious." He shook his head. "That's not possible. Lions don't protect humans. They hunt humans." "I know," I said. "But this one did. For 3 days. From that canyon to here. It walked with us. Protected us. And then it left." Dr. Kamau studied my face for a long moment. Then he said quietly, "I believe you." "Why?" He gestured toward me. "Because you're standing here. Against impossible odds, with impossible testimony, you're standing here. That's miracle. Enough." The Eritrean Refugee Processing Center was chaos. 3,000 people crammed into a facility designed for 500. Tents everywhere, blue UNHCR tarps stretched over wooden frames, creating a maze of temporary shelters that leaked when it rained and baked like ovens when the sun was high. Lines for everything: food, water, medical care, registration. Children crying. Adults arguing. The constant low roar of human desperation. But within 24 hours of our arrival, we became something else. Something that cut through the noise and the despair like a spotlight. We became the Lion People. It started with Dr. Kamau. He was the one who examined us first, standard procedure for all new arrivals. Checking for disease, malnutrition, injuries that needed immediate treatment. We had plenty of all three. He examined Salima first. Dehydration, mild malnutrition, blistered feet, but alive. Thriving, even, considering what we'd been through. "She should be dead," Dr. Kamau said quietly while he worked, checking her vitals. A 4-year-old child, 300 kilometers through the Sudanese desert in August? The statistics are, they're not good. Most children her age don't survive that journey. "I know," I said. "But she did." He looked at me. "Because of the lion?" "Because of Jesus," I corrected gently. The lion was just his tool. Dr. Kamau nodded slowly. He moved on to examine me: dehydration, severe malnutrition, infected cuts on my feet, mild heat exhaustion. "You need 4 fluids, antibiotics, and about 3 weeks of rest and proper nutrition." "Will I get that here?" I asked. He smiled tiredly. "Maybe 2 of the 3. Rest is hard to come by in a refugee camp. But we'll do what we can." While he treated my wounds, he asked questions. Detailed questions. Doctor questions. "Tell me about the lion. From the beginning. Everything you remember." So I did. The canyon. Bashir. The gunfire that didn't touch the lion. The way it protected us. The 3-day journey to the border. Dr. Kamau listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "Then, I need to examine the others. I need to hear their versions. Separately. Do you understand why?" "You want to verify the story," I said. "I want to verify the miracle," he corrected. "If this really happened, if God really sent a lion to protect you, then this is massive. This is the kind of testimony that changes lives. But it has to be true. Verifiable. Not just one person's story, but multiple witnesses all saying the same thing." "Examine them," I said. "Ask them anything. We're all telling the truth." Dr. Kamau spent the next 4 hours interviewing each member of our group separately. Ruth first, then Fatima, then Zara, then David. He asked the same questions to each person, documenting their answers in a notebook. When he finished, he came back to where I was resting in the medical tent. Sat down heavily on a folding chair. Rubbed his face with both hands. "Well?" I asked. "Your stories match," he said. "Every detail. The timeline. The location. The description of the lion. What it did. How it acted. You're either all telling the truth, or you all coordinated the most elaborate lie I've ever heard.
We're telling the truth. I know. He looked at me. I believe you.
Which is insane because everything in my medical training, my scientific education, my rational mind is screaming that this is impossible.
Lions don't behave this way. They don't ignore bullets. They don't escort humans to safety. They don't bow to children.
But six people who have no reason to lie, who have nothing to gain from lying, are all telling me the same impossible story. It's not impossible for God, I said quietly.
No, Dr. Kamau agreed. I suppose it's not. He leaned forward. Amira, I need to ask you something. This lion, do you believe it was an actual animal? Or do you think it was an angel appearing as a lion? I'd thought about this question during our journey to the border. I don't know, I admitted. It felt real. It looked real. It smelled real.
But the way it acted, the intelligence in its eyes, the way it seemed to understand us, the fact that bullets didn't touch it, that wasn't natural.
So maybe it was both? An actual lion that God took control of? Commanded? I don't know how to explain it. Dr. Kamau nodded. The Bible has precedent. Balaam's donkey.
The ravens that fed Elijah. The fish that swallowed Jonah. God using animals for his purposes.
It's not without precedent. You know the Bible? I asked. He smiled. I'm a Christian. Born and raised in Nairobi. My father is a pastor.
I came here, to this camp, to this work, because I believe God called me to serve refugees. But I'll be honest, my faith has been, he paused, searching for the word.
Tested. Severely tested. Watching people die every day.
Children starving.
Women violated. Men broken. I've prayed so many times, God, where are you? Why aren't you doing something?
His eyes filled with tears. And then you walk into my camp with this impossible testimony, and I realize he is doing something.
He's been doing something.
I just couldn't see it because I was looking for big, public miracles.
Headlines. Mass healings. But God was working in the quiet moments. In the individual lives.
Sending a lion to protect 6 refugees that nobody in the world cares about except him.
7, I corrected. 6 adults and 1 child.
7, he agreed. 7 people who matter enough to God that he commanded creation itself to protect them.
He wiped his eyes. That's the most beautiful and humbling thing I've ever heard. Word spread fast in the camp. By evening, everyone knew about the lion people.
Refugees kept approaching our tent, wanting to hear the story firsthand.
Some believed immediately. Some were skeptical. Some openly hostile.
A Sudanese man named Omar, Muslim, mid-40s, angry, confronted me outside the medical tent.
You're lying, he spat. Trying to make people convert with your fake miracle stories. I know your type.
Christian missionaries with your lies and your I was Muslim, I interrupted calmly.
31 years. I prayed 5 times a day. I fasted. I followed the pillars. And Allah never spoke to me. Not once. But Jesus? Jesus sent a lion. That stopped him. You were Muslim? Yes. From birth. Just like you. And you betrayed the faith for these fairy tales? I didn't betray anything, I said. I found truth. Real, tangible, visible truth. A miracle I can't explain away. Can't rationalize. Can't ignore. Omar shook his head. Miracles don't happen anymore.
They ended with the prophets. Then explain how I'm standing here, I challenged. Explain how a 4-year-old child survived 300 kilometers through the Sudan desert. Explain how 20 armed men shot at a lion with automatic rifles and it didn't die. Explain that with something other than God did it, and I'll listen. He couldn't.
He opened his mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. Nothing came out. I'm not asking you to convert, I said more gently. I'm not asking you to do anything except think. What if Jesus really is who he says he is? What if he really does still do miracles? What if everything we were taught was incomplete? Omar stared at me for a long moment. Then turned and walked away without another word. But 3 days later, he came back. Found me washing clothes at the communal water pump. I want to hear the story again, he said quietly. All of it. Every detail. So I told him. Again. And when I finished, Omar said, I need to think. I need to process this. Take your time, I said. Jesus is patient. But not everyone was hostile or skeptical. Some people, especially other refugees who'd experienced their own impossible survivals, believed immediately. A Somali woman named Hadan heard about the lion and came to our tent crying. God saved you too, she said, gripping my hands. He saved me with a storm. Tell me, I said. Al-Shabaab attacked my village, Hadan said. They killed my husband. My sons. They were taking the women, me and 15 others, to their camp. To be used. She couldn't say the word. Didn't need to. We all knew what happened to women captured by Al-Shabaab. They were marching us through the bush. We'd been walking for hours. I was praying not to Allah anymore, because I'd prayed to Allah so many times and he never answered. I was praying to Jesus. Because I remembered my Christian neighbor saying once, when you have no hope left, call on Jesus. He hears. So I did. I whispered, Jesus, if you're real, save us. Please. She paused, tears streaming down her face. And the sky went black. In seconds. This massive storm appeared out of nowhere, and it's the dry season, we shouldn't have storms. Lightning. Thunder. Rain so thick you couldn't see 3 feet ahead. The fighters panicked. Started shooting randomly because they thought we were being ambushed. And in the chaos, in that impossible storm, we ran. All 16 women. We scattered into the bush, and the fighters couldn't find us because of the rain, the darkness, the confusion. Did you all survive? I asked. 12 of us, Hadan said. 12 out of 16. The other 4 were shot in the chaos. But 12 of us escaped because Jesus sent a storm. She looked at me intensely. Your lion. My storm. These aren't coincidences. This is God. Moving. Protecting. Saving. I know, I said. So what do we do with this? Hadan asked. How do we, what's next? We tell people, Ruth interjected. She'd been listening to our conversation. We tell everyone. Muslims, Christians, atheists, whoever will listen. We tell them what God did. And we let him use our testimonies to draw people to Jesus. But I don't know how to be a Christian, Hadan said. I don't know the prayers, the rituals, neither do I admitted. I've been a Christian for like 3 months. I'm figuring it out as I go. But here's what I've learned, being a Christian isn't about knowing all the rules. It's about knowing Jesus. Having a relationship with him. Talking to him like he's real, because he is real. And trusting that he'll teach us the rest as we go. Hadan nodded slowly. Okay. Then teach me. Teach me how to talk to him. So we did. Right there, sitting in the dirt outside our tent, Ruth and I taught Hadan the same simple prayer we taught Fatima and Zara. The desperate, honest prayer, Jesus, I don't understand everything, but I believe you're real. I believe you died for me. Save me. Make me yours. I'm trusting you completely. Hadan prayed it through tears. And when she finished, she looked at us with this expression of shocked relief. I feel lighter, she said. Like something heavy just left.
That's exactly what happened, Ruth said, smiling. The weight of trying to earn salvation through works, through rituals, through being good enough, it's gone. Because Jesus already paid the price. You're free now. Free, Hutton repeated, testing the word. Then she laughed, this beautiful, joyful sound that echoed across the camp. I'm free. Over the next 2 weeks, our small group of 7 became 20. Then 40. Then 80. Muslims, Christians, atheists, people who'd never believed in anything, all drawn by the testimony of the lion and the storm and the spring in the desert and the fire that didn't burn. Dr. Kamau documented everything. He interviewed every person who claimed a miracle. Verified their stories. Cross-referenced details. He was building a case not for scientific journals, but for truth. For the undeniable reality that God was moving in East Africa in 2023 in ways that couldn't be explained, rationalized, or ignored. And then, 3 weeks after we arrived at the camp, something happened that changed everything. Commander Bashir arrived at the border. Not as a threat. As a refugee. He walked into the UN checkpoint alone, unarmed, wearing civilian clothes instead of his tactical gear. His face was hollow. Haunted. When the border guards asked his name, he told them. Didn't lie. Didn't hide. I'm Commander Bashir. I've committed war crimes. I'm wanted by the ICC. I'm turning myself in. The guards arrested him immediately. But before they took him away, he asked for one thing, let me speak to the lion woman. The one I hunted. Please. I need to talk to her. They came to get me. Told me Bashir was there and wanted to speak to me. My first reaction was terror. Pure, instinctive fear. No. Absolutely not. He hunted us. He tried to kill us, he's unarmed, Dr. Kamau said gently. He's in custody. He can't hurt you. And Amira, he paused. He's broken. I saw his eyes. Whatever happened in that canyon, whatever he saw, it destroyed him. I think he needs to hear about Jesus. From you. I didn't want to go. Every fiber of my being screamed to stay away from the man who'd murdered my husband, burned my village, hunted me across the desert. But something deeper, something that sounded like Jesus whispering, forgive. Love your enemies. Show them me, made me say yes. They took me to a small interview room at the checkpoint. Bashir sat at a metal table, handcuffed, with 2 guards standing behind him. When I walked in, he looked up. And I barely recognized him. This wasn't the confident, cold-eyed commander who'd executed Miriam in the village square. This was a broken man. His face was gaunt. His eyes were red-rimmed, like he hadn't slept in weeks. His hands shook. Amira, he said. His voice cracked on my name. I sat down across from him. Said nothing. Waiting. I came to. I need to, he struggled to form words. That thing in the canyon. The lion. I've been seeing it. Every night. In my dreams. Sometimes when I'm awake. It's always there. Watching me. And I can't. I can't sleep. Can't eat. Can't think. It's driving me insane. Why are you telling me this? I asked coldly. Because you made it appear. Bashir said desperately. You and your sorcery, your magic, you have to make it stop. Please. I'll do anything. I'll turn myself in, I have turned myself in. I'll confess to everything. Just make the lion go away. I stared at him. I didn't make the lion appear. I can't make it disappear. Because it wasn't sorcery, Bashir. It was God. No, yes, I said firmly. The God you tried to destroy. The God whose followers you murdered. The God you said was weak. He sent that lion to prove you wrong. And now you can't escape what you saw. You can't rationalize it.
You can't explain it away. So it's haunting you.
Bashir put his head in his hands.
What do I do? How do I make it stop?
I felt something shift in my heart.
Not pity, exactly. But compassion.
The same compassion Jesus must have felt for his executioners when he said, "Father, forgive them.
They don't know what they're doing."
You repent, I said quietly.
You turn to Jesus.
You ask him to forgive you for everything you've done.
And you spend the rest of your life, however long that is, telling people what you saw.
Using your testimony to undo some of the damage you've caused.
But I've killed hundreds, Bashir whispered.
Burned villages.
Murdered children. Raped women.
How can Jesus possibly? He died for you too, I interrupted.
Even you.
Even with all the blood on your hands.
His blood is enough.
It covers everything.
If you truly repent. If you truly surrender.
Bashir looked at me with desperate hope.
You really believe that?
I know that, I said.
Because he saved me.
A Muslim woman who spent 31 years praying to the wrong God.
If he can save me, he can save anyone.
Bashir was silent for a long moment.
Then, will you pray with me? Teach me how? I almost said no. Almost stood up and walked out.
This man had murdered my husband. But I heard that whisper again, this is why I sent the lion. Not just to save you, but to save him. Through you. So I prayed with Commander Bashir.
The same simple, desperate prayer I'd prayed in the burning church.
The same prayer that had saved me.
And when we finished, Bashir was crying. Sobbing like a child.
I see it, he gasped.
I see it now. The lion, it wasn't there to terrify me.
It was there to save me. To stop me from killing you and damning myself even further.
It was mercy. Yes, I said.
It was mercy. I don't deserve this, Bashir said.
None of us do, I replied. That's what makes it grace. Commander Bashir was tried by the International Criminal Court 6 months later.
He pleaded guilty to all charges.
War crimes. Crimes against humanity. Murder. The prosecution asked for life in prison.
But Bashir's lawyer presented something unusual, testimony from 17 former refugees, Muslims and Christians, who said that Bashir had contacted them from prison.
Apologized. Begged forgiveness. Sent money from his family's accounts to help rebuild villages he destroyed. And testimony from me. From Ruth. From Dr. Kamau. About the lion. About the miracle.
About Bashir's conversion. The judges sentenced him to 30 years. But they also did something unprecedented, they allowed him to give testimony about his conversion and the miracle he'd witnessed.
His testimony was recorded. Distributed. It went viral in Muslim communities across East Africa.
Commander Bashir, the man who'd terrorized thousands, became one of the most powerful evangelists in Sudan.
From prison.
And it all started because God sent a lion. I'm sitting in a refugee settlement in Ethiopia right now as I tell you this story. Not the same camp where we first arrived, we were moved here 8 months ago when the Eritrean facility became too overcrowded.
This camp is bigger. Slightly better organized. But still a camp. Still temporary shelters and food rations and uncertain futures. My home is a tent. 12 feet by 12 feet.
I share it with Salima, Ruth, and 2 other refugee families, 9 people total in a space meant for 4.
We sleep on mats on the dirt floor.
When it rains, water seeps through the seams and we spend the night trying to keep our few belongings dry. When it's hot, which is most of the time, the tent becomes an oven and we sit outside under whatever shade we can find. I own exactly 7 things: the clothes I'm wearing, 1 spare outfit, a blanket, a plastic water container, a small Bible that Ruth gave me, Salima's wooden camel toy, and a photograph of my husband Kareem that I managed to grab before fleeing our village.
That's it. That's everything I possess in this world. By every earthly measure,
I have nothing. And yet I have everything. Because I have Jesus. And I've learned, truly learned, not just intellectually understood but lived and